like how you said that. You said it's for everybody, but not everybody accepts it, and then how reason you kind of kept up on some of the stuff like El Mac. This stuff's incredible, and for someone to face that is really hard for me to wrap my mind around. I can only put it this way: when I'm out, we were doing this farmers market in the town of Guadalupe where I live, and it was an interesting time when we were out there. The full time that we were out there, we were out there for 6 Saturdays. We had from the homies in the neighborhood that came through to the elders. It was a farmers market, to hipsters, to some college people. Everybody was really good with it. They really accepted it, and we dialogued with them. Like Lalo said, he's very shy. He uses art to express, his communication with the audience, with the masses. And my son will keep painting, and I can step away and then communicate. And they got to know us a little bit, And I think ultimately, it is for everyone. But Lalo said it best now, but not everyone accepts it. But I think where we are here in 2013, that there is a large, I think, a bigger acceptance than there was, as the years progress. I mean, now they even manufacture the aerosol paint for the sole purpose of creating pieces. When the Michaels, you go into the different art stores, the hardware stores, and I still marvel at that, because we used to go, we called rack our paint. We'd go rack our paint, and there was only maybe a few brands that we could capture to use, and now it's just so marketable. So I believe the audience is bigger.
I just wanted to say something about the piece that Brace was talking about, Mac's piece. The reason I'm bringing it up is because of the way it affects different people. It's a portrait. And the person or people that are defacing it are not really defacing it. They're just kind of expressing themselves. I guess it's their graffiti over Mac's graffiti. And what I'm assuming is happening is it's somebody that reminds them of somebody else, because they're not really defacing it, they're splashing food on it. So it could be, we've been able to clean it every time. It's not really destroyed, but it's happened, and it happened a lot more than 8 times. It happened a lot of times. But I just, the way the piece is interactive, I just wanted to bring that point. It's interactive, and it obviously is affecting someone to go out of their way to do that.
Well, I guess my take on this is that I try to introduce what the piece of art is representative of the whole city, or the area it's in. Try to let you guys take in, like, this is a building, this is a piece of art, this is the rest, and just try to make you guys enjoy it in that kind of way. Not much, but I thought I would have.
Actually, to add on to that, there's a cactus right next to the Max piece, and I'm more offended that somebody kicks the cactus or destroys the cactus. I'm more offended at that than somebody splashing food on the painting. Yeah, I keep planting it over and over again.
I'm sure the cactus is very grateful. Niba, one of the reasons I'm so excited to actually have you on this panel is that, one of the things that, as someone who has not grown up within the community, who looks at it perhaps from certainly an outsider standpoint, I mean, one of the things that I admire about street art is its fragility. I mean, the fact that you do float these beautiful things out there into the world and you leave them at the mercy of a very hard and cruel world. The impermanence and perhaps the rawness is certainly a great strength within it. And Niba, what I think is really interesting about your work is that you are in some ways archiving and preserving this work for the future. How do you kind of think about that, or do you see yourself as more as a collaborator, as someone who really interprets certain ways the work should be seen?
Archiving is like one of the main goals why I started doing it. I wanted to introduce everybody to pieces that mostly will only last a day. Some not even last the whole day. some are like so beneath the ground that most people will never go and see them. And I kind of want to bring that out and show people that, you know, people that are like in tunnels, they take their time, they put a lot of effort into them. When it's not a legal mural or a piece of street art that has been given a lot of attention to. Because a lot of the stuff that I have shot is stuff that, unless you're driving on the freeway, you'll see a glimpse of it. But I'm trying to show you, like, there's more to it, and there's more to the way that they actually put it onto a piece of concrete or a wall or a piece of glass or something. You know, there's a lot more to it than just vandalism or somebody expressing what they feel. Mostly graffiti was basically a political thing. It started off like, this is what we're revolting against. But it's expanded in so many different ways. But I just want to show like the beauty of it. And it's about it.
Well, I'm grateful that we have somebody like Niba to document everything because I'm terrible at that.
I just wanted to add something about, you know, we're talking about like how people either appreciate it or don't appreciate it. I think something that I think about a lot is people now are starting to see street art, maybe Miami paste or like murals or whatever, and like appreciate that and accept it as art, but they still think that, you know, a tag or graffiti or like maybe a bigger piece, graffiti piece is somehow like different, it's somehow like not artistic or not art, it's just vandalism or it's just like some like, you know, a troubled youth or, you know, a troublemaker or something. But really I think when you look at graffiti, it's like, you know, it is like a political thing. It did start as something as a way to revolt and a way to, you know, resist and also it's just to express yourself. I think anywhere in any city where you see a lot of graffiti or you see, you know, a neighborhood, I think it's a reflection of what the youth and what, you know, the people who are doing it or live in that area are going through, you know. It's just it's not just vandalism, but it's, you know, it's a very important way of self-expression and not something that should just be, you know, put in another category, you know, and not seen as art, because it's an art not just visually, but it's also like it's just a really important just way to just show, like, leave your mark, you know, leave your mark. It's like reset of something that's been done, you know, humans have been doing forever, and it's the same.
I think your points about, you know, the continuation of kind of hieroglyphs, the idea of you know, the visual culture of our urban spaces being taken over by commercial advertising are really important parts. And such what you were mentioning about the idea that it's now a felony to do it. I'd like to ask if your work has been influenced or has changed after SB 1070. How has that affected what you do?
You know, after SB 1070, it really hasn't, to tell you the truth, just being honest with you. I just pretty much still create, you know, what I'm feeling, what I'm into at the time, and I just kind of move into that direction. Like I said, I live in the town of Guadalupe, and you know, we see a lot there, you know, and we're doing a community project out there, and it's me being right there and kind of, I don't know, and creating my artwork, and the sheriff's coming by. It's really interesting. You know, I don't think we have enough time to sit here and talk about it, but it's really interesting. It truly is. But again, for the most part, you know, they get down, we communicate, and I hope they walk away seeing something different, you know. And I know they have to walk on eggshells a little bit, you know, these days. So it's really truly interesting, you know. I work with my sons, my oldest son mainly, Chap, he's 21, and you know, he does a lot of political cartooning, a lot of different things there. You know, we both have our own style, that what we do, and our passions on that. But again, our art is a vessel, and you know what's going on at that time. You know, if we choose to, we'll use it as a voice. I think we use it as a voice all the time, but as far as the topic, I don't try to tap into something to try to make it marketable on that. You know, on the impression of others. I just try to tap into what I'm doing at that time, and then just kind of move forward on that. I answered that okay?
As far as me, my political stuff has been targeted more as towards SB 1070, only because I think it's pretty ridiculous, and I just try to bring like humor and light to the situation. I did a mural in a Mexican restaurant in Awatuki, and the owner said that it was hard for her to serve officers that were just doing their raids. They just finished doing raids in Guadalupe and going to have tacos at this restaurant. So I don't even know what else to say.
Probably me.
Perhaps you can talk a little bit about, since the cityscape is your canvas, how ideas of scale play into the images that you create, and perhaps also placement, how you choose, how those choices are made or not made.
Well, placement and how the choices are made now, I guess if we get the permission or commission to do the work, obviously now I'm trying to paint as big as I can possibly paint, and I'm just taking them as they come.
I know for me, because placement is always, I usually have a spot in mind before I put something up, but sometimes I like them to be more hidden in pieces, and kind of like have it be like, have a person feel like it's like a little secret, like that they found or something. And sometimes they're more visible, and that obviously leaves them like more vulnerable to be covered up. But I've had both experiences of having stuff that I thought would be, you know, covered up right away, staying for a long time. I've seen pieces I've put up that have been tagged, you know, around them on the wall, and I've seen a little old man with a shopping cart and a bucket of paint, like painting the graffiti over and then leaving my piece, which is really interesting because I don't think what I do is like any better or above, you know, a tagger, what a tagger does. But and then there's sometimes once Niba managed to get a photograph of one of the pieces that was only up for like 5 hours. So you never know.
Well, those are things you have to deal with when you're painting in public spaces. When you're being interactive with the public, you never know what they're going to do.
I've been called at 3 o'clock in the morning by other artists going, hey, I put something up, go get a shot. so I'm like heads up on when stuff goes up. So especially like the stuff that only lasts a day or so, usually I try to make it an effort to go out and shoot it before it disappears. So yeah, I've been called at certain times throughout the day, hey, I got something up, hey, this. So I'm constantly running around trying to catch whatever I can.
So basically you're on call 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Good to know. And perhaps from a selfish point of view, I would love to hear if, I mean, we've talked about the growing appreciation of street art, and also obviously certain segments of society which remain quite hostile. The show that was done at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, has that improved the way your work is received? Has that had no ramifications within the community? Has it been perceived at all?
I think the show at the Mocha, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It was the first, they called it the first graffiti street art exhibit in the United States. And I haven't personally been overseas, but I have witnessed through documentation from other people in other countries how huge the graffiti, mural art, street art scene is in other countries. If you go to Sao Paulo, Brazil, or if you even look up graffiti in Sao Paulo, Brazil, or Cape Town, South Africa, or Tokyo, or Italy, it's huge, and the numbers are amazing how much work is being produced. And I think the United States, and this is my own personal opinion, through pop culture and media, sort of this weird love-hate double-edged sword, because it exploits it in a way, not necessarily, well, yeah, exploits it. So you start seeing graffiti in advertising and commercials, and this has been going on, I think, since the 80s. But it does give it more of a leeway. It brings it to a bigger audience because people are able to see it more in everyday viewing a website or a commercial. So people are becoming more aware of it, and it's very hip for young people, especially really young people, young kids, to see it in different types of media and to be very into it and very interested into it. But on the other side of that coin, it feels, again, like it really is being exploited. So you have these corporations taking these things, these works of art and communication that people are pouring their heart and soul into, and sort of, throwing a couple coins at them for a little song and dance, and voila, there's graffiti in your commercial. So, yeah, I'm not really sure how to feel about how street art or graffiti art is being accepted nowadays.
Well, street art or graffiti is becoming, or if it's not already, like the #1 art form in the world.
Absolutely.
And it's a part of living in a city, just like noise or anything else. Traffic.
I think it's a really delicate balance, because I think it's great like to expose people who would normally see street art or even like be aware of it, to expose the kind of people who go to museums for them to see that. But then again, it's not really street art. It's not really, it doesn't have the same rawness. It doesn't have, there's not someone going and sneaking up in the middle of the night and like putting something up. So, once you turn it into something that you can sell, then it's kind of like lost something. But at the same time, it's great. It should get recognized as an art form, but
I think I'm not positive, but I think when you do it out illegally, it's called graffiti, and when you have permission, it's called street art.
I think what Mr. Deitch did over there in LA, I personally was elated by it. I was really excited because it showed some of the Michael Jordans, the Larry Birds in my life, in the whole pioneering of the aerosol art field of graffiti writing. They were there. Lee Guionis did work, and I know they took the model freights and they did the mid-90s graffiti that was going on in the freights. As well as have other artists that were involved in that. And so, again, what Mr. Deitch brought there, I thought it was, for myself, I was happy about it. Has it arrived? I don't know, but there's a huge big window of opportunity that's going on that I didn't have 10 years ago, less 20 years ago I didn't have. Going to the dusters, Lalo, we go through and we were painting, doing our thing there. And now, you're doing public work, It's very interesting to some of the work that I and my son are privileged to be, humbled to be involved with the Mesa Art Center and the Musical Instrument Museum as part of their exhibit. I think I think it's just another stepping stone of where it's going, as its acceptance, being said.
For you, such a Crayon is doing a lot of good stuff too. A big difference from 20 years ago at the Pastures.
Yeah, the latest piece that he did. We're talking about one of our other favorites, our people, Crayon, and he was in the Valley too, and I had the privilege of knowing him, painting under him, and learning a little bit from him. I think I learned a lot from him, actually, I should say. But that's my take on it, anyways, what he did.
Yeah, and when I first was introduced to graffiti, Crayon and such were some of the first pieces that I saw here, but I had no idea Crayon was already in spray can art. He was already a big graffiti writer from San Francisco, and still is. He's still productive. I just saw his work last week when I was in the Bay Area. He's still 100% productive.
Was that a samurai that he did, or no? It was amazing. Yeah.
So I want to open it up for questions, but of course before I do, I'd like to ask one last question of the panel here in a more formal way, which is what do you think or what do you hope the future is, both for your individual practices as artists and then also just for the art form in general?
I'm hoping to see more free walls come up. Great opportunity for me, but seriously, it's a great outlet for anybody who wants to write or who wants to paint. I mean, more free walls means more places where people won't tag on buildings that, are frowned upon, but it would give a unity and a sense of pride that their work can be displayed for a while until the next one comes up and keeps painting. I think abandoned buildings should be painted. I think it would bring more color to the city if a lot of these buildings that are not being used can be painted. It would add so much to the city that that we can definitely use here.
Well, what's funny is that the reason there is a lot of murals going up is because they want to reduce graffiti, and that's why they get murals painted.
I mean, I'd like, if you said, and I'm the biggest lobbyist on that, of taking derelict buildings in the city and turn them over to like art houses, And I see Sylvia here in the audience, and I think you guys could contest to this more. I think she's opened up a lot of doors on availability of walls that are being done, and to be able to go to the guy at 16 and be able to see the work that's there. It's pretty cool, I personally, as a recipient, to be able to go and see that. It's like I said, I'm looking in hindsight, and I'm able to see something that has flourished, on that. But I think going forward, I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity, new generations of, I can only say for my son, my youngest son, what he's going to do what they can. I'm looking forward to that, and many new artists, what they're going to bring to the table. So I think it's going to continue on the growth. I'm sorry.
I think more free walls, like you said, would be amazing. There's no reason why Phoenix shouldn't have as much art as any other major city. It's not about trying to be another city, it's about Phoenix, finding its own voice. So I think that's great, but at the same, also, on the flip side, I don't think graffiti is something that's ever going to stop. I think the more that, and it's really harsh here in Arizona to be caught vandalizing. But I think as long as you're not supposed to do it, people are going to keep doing it. I don't think it's something that's ever going to stop. No matter how many murals, that's great. There should be more outlets for taggers or young kids to learn to do art, because it's obviously something they have in them, even more aesthetically, what they do or what they're trying to do. So more murals, good. It's not going to stop.
I don't think we could, none of us could, that's out of our control. All the cities around the world are all going to get painted, because collective as human beings, I think we're trying to take it back. If you think of every major city was mural. Every major city with Aztecs, any part of the world, all the cities were mural. So I think collectively as humanity, we're just going back to that.
May I just jump in? Sorry, please, just to jump in. I always like the fact that, if your graffiti is old enough, it becomes art. The Roman graffiti around the world, that's now art. And even 17th century graffiti on Roman ruins is art. So, yeah, I think you're right about that. It's all just a perception of time. Sorry, please.
Well, again, I think all of us here, we continue to carry on this legacy of creating this work, no matter what the style or the canvas, the size, what it is we're communicating. We, again, carry on this legacy of an old, ancient human thing since the birth of you could say, human consciousness, and utilizing tools and resources to to speak to the masses. Like Lalo just said, ancient cities covered themselves with artwork. Maybe it wasn't considered artwork at the time, and maybe it was. Maybe it was simply telling stories. But on a personal note, for Phoenix, I have this great love for it because I'm born and raised here, and I think that it's really grown a lot. Sure, in 20 years, 15 years, but a lot in 5 years, and I think it's up to par with any city in the United States as far as talent goes, as far as how much work is being put up. I mean, the passion that goes into it, and there's many people. I mean, I can probably pick out 10 people in this room who've painted a mural in the city, and it's great to see. And once again, it's like they had already said, it's not going to stop on the graffiti level. I mean, it's sort of like we'll never grow out of that 13-year-old mindset. Like if you tell a 13-year-old not to do something, they're probably going to do it anyway. So with graffiti, though, again, such brought up a good point as far as the generations to come, educating and passing on knowledge to young people, giving them that platform, paving the way to allow them to carry it on after us, to be the next generation, to speak and to use it the way they need to use it in their time later on, or even when they're young, to find that identity and to find their own voice, to figure out their place in this world. I think for a lot of us, that's how we found ourselves, and once again, it's part of just ancient human culture.
Thank you. Are there questions from the floor? In the middle.
I have a comment and a question, just real fast. But first, I just want to say, like from someone here in the city, like from those of you who may have from those of you who have been doing it the least amount of time to the longest, like I just want to say for keeping our city and our environment, what we see, you're keeping it unexpected and more colorful and just more interesting, you know, through graffiti, through all the different art, whether it's just a back alley wall or a permission wall. Like, so I just want to say, like, from someone here in the city, like, thank you, you know. And then especially too, because it gives me like with that Mac mural, it gives me something good to like throw my food on. I like doing that. It gives me a chance. But I really wanted to ask too, but I really did mean the thank you part. You know, I'm just playing about the food.
He's thanking himself too because he's an artist as well.
But part of it when I see all these pictures, and these are all your pictures, Niba, that you're showing. You know, thank you for documenting it too. It's important. But what I wanted to ask you guys is, what's the, you can answer either of these things. What's the most risky, like out there spot that you've ever seen painted here in the Valley or in Arizona? Or what is the largest piece of graffiti or a piece of art that you've seen? And you don't all have to answer it, but I'd be curious to hear what you guys think of.
For me personally, as far as like illegal graffiti, I like the TAF rooftop that was on by the it was like Central and Adams. Yeah, that for me personally, I thought that was probably one of the greatest as far as illegal graffiti goes.
Mine that I regret not photographing was a Pezzer and Caper on I-10 that was just huge. And the next time I went to go shoot it, it was gone. And I regret not being able to catch some of the stuff that I've seen out there.
You still didn't sleep?
Probably for me, man, there's so many to choose from, but I want to say the underpasses of the bridges that were painted by certain individuals maybe 10 years ago. And these are people who scaled, and actually quite risky and popular in Los Angeles, but done here, you know, the interchangeable freeway passes that connect to the other freeways. A couple artists, graffiti writers here had painted those, which you're basically dangling on 6-inch ledge, you know, 100 feet above the freeway.
Are you referring to the busy one?
Busy, denied, I don't know, there's quite a few people.
The busy, the one I thought you were talking about the one on right off of
That one's
Third,
right above the tunnel. Right above the tunnel?
right above the before you go into the 7th Street tunnel, the lip.
The link.
Busy DMS.
Busy, that's right.
I then signs on the highway, especially like outside of the city. Like I was just driving into Phoenix from the south and noticed a piece like it was like in the middle of nowhere and it was way I couldn't even figure out how they got up there. And so yeah, I think that's always risky. And someone just did some graffiti like on the border, and that was in Mexico. Yeah, right across, right from the outside, on the Mexico side, right on the border. So I think that's pretty interesting.
So,
What's the negotiation like when you're doing a commission? Is there a conflict ever between your vision and what the person might feel about their wall that they're proprietary about, or do you get control a little bit in terms of content or theme?
Is that a general question or is it just?
Just generally, I'm just curious what that.
Typically, when people hire me for a commission, they're already familiar with my work, and they may have like certain ideas or something like that, but for the most part, it's they already know what they're getting into.
nobody else, sorry, Sarge.
We'll get another question.
No, come on.
I strongly agree, that's all I had to say. I mean, it's like you're gonna go buy a certain particular car, you know what you're after, and I think when you're seeking a certain artist, you're going after their flair, their character, what they bring to the table.
But, you know, it's an interesting question given that, you know, even at Mocha, and I agree such entirely that, you know, what Jeffrey did over there was amazing, but he painted over one mural because its content was considered too. So even, I think, somebody like that who knows the milieu, knows the artist, you know, he came under massive pressure.
I thought that was a shame that mural only lasted for 24 hours.
What cut?
The coffins?
Yeah.
It was a blue mural.
So it was a series of coffins, and instead of being covered in a flag, they were covered in a dollar bill, and it was it was in an area where it was in proximity to a monument to the Korean War veterans. And Mocha came under pressure and ultimately painted out the mural less than 24 hours after it went up. So.
That's how hardcore it was.
Within a similar idea, I'm starting a school club and I want to integrate graffiti into the club, and that's a concern, is that the nature of the culture starting as an illegal act, being the trains transferring the culture around, being an issue when you're presenting the technique and the artistry to a group of school children as an application technique. What problems do you guys, I know some of you have worked with schools,
Yeah, when I worked.
do you see in content and history being a negative thing that you have to overcome when pitching it to a more mainstream market? Like, I work at a high school and I want to start a performance art club, but I can see what Dumper Food does on the stage needing to be put onto like a stage at a high school and be replicatable to bring out artists like yourself to come teach various techniques of this style of application, being aerosol, the application, but the foundation of it all being so shadowed in illegal, or the content being an issue where you could be making something that could be offending a race or a culture, or like how do you go about pitching yourself or presenting yourself in a more of a mainstream vision, where you're going to be bringing something that has a clouded or a shady past being done in alleyways and on trains, saying this should or could be done in this way on professionally done walls where you're being commissioned, and just presenting a brighter side of a culture that does still have a shadowy undertone to it. There's never going to be a elimination of the train. So like when you're pitching graffiti, how do you put the lighter spin on it?
Well, graffiti as an art form has become an art form, I guess, in a sense. And when I work with kids, I'm there to teach them my craft and teach them how maybe they can make money out of it if that's what they choose to do. I'm not really teaching them how to break into a train yard or anything like that. With the skills that they learn, I have no control what they do, but I don't ever even bring that up to them.
Is that an issue in presenting it, that you are teaching them a skill that can be used for destruction as well as creation?
I think if you, just putting the tool in their hands and just giving them knowledge and ability to create something, they're gonna do whatever they want. It's not about just because it's a spray can that means they're gonna go attack. Maybe they are gonna attack, maybe that would be a good thing for them. Maybe it won't, you know?
But a lot of times when I've worked with them, a lot of them, it seemed like you could see the light bulb in their head going on that, oh, there is something else. Maybe I could do something else with it. Maybe it's not just something that I should do in my neighborhood. And that's the progression of the art form.
My thought is more from the stance of, not that, I know the kids will do what they're gonna do with whatever you teach them, but the stance of, how do you even get the possibility of being in that realm, teaching children with that being a stigma that might follow the graffiti as an art. Like, I have such, I direct for you as well, I know you've done stuff in schools before, and teaching children, how do you get over the adults' negative, maybe preconceptions of graffiti as an art?
What I do when I bring that to the table as a program, or with children, and high school kids, whatnot, but what it is I'm promoting art through the use of aerosol paint versus vandalism. So I'm pretty much kind of doing like an amnesty type thing, you know, I'm grabbing something, and truly when I am working with the kids, me and my son were working with them, and we get a rapport, you know, with these kids, we get to know them, and I really don't want them to go through stuff if they don't have to. So I pull them aside and say, hey, you may want to, you know, think about what you're going to do with that. You know, so I do talk with them, and I share with them, you know, you can, you know, tag the city. I understand that's part of the element. I used to do it. I get that. I said, but you know, you want to get a portfolio of pieces, you know, that you've done, so that when you do apply for art school or for what have you, for projects, you can show them some work. So that's what you should probably say, you know, is do that. So.
Yeah, teaching it more as a technique than the culture of it. I guess the culture's there, you want that in the technique, but not the promotion of the illegal side of the art.
I think at the time you use the word graffiti, it's going to scare a lot of people. So it's really in the wording, and you're talking about maybe the higher ups in say the school facility that you're teaching at, or wanting to get the program going, or parents. They don't want to hear the word graffiti. So for my personal experience, I work with youth also in the Salt River community, a lot of at-risk youth on the reservation, and same thing that they all just said too. And you yourself, they're gonna do what they're gonna do no matter what. But if you inspire them to see it in a different way, to see it as not graffiti or getting up, but possibly making a career out of it, or whatever the medium becomes later. Maybe they become a filmmaker, or maybe they become a ceramic artist. But really, I think it's very touchy when you're getting involved with the school and how it is presented. So I like to sort of think of it as infiltration on our part. So when we do get in and we word it the right way, the way they want to hear it, we're able to bring all these other elements sort of under the rug and slip it in and say, well, I know you're going to do this no matter what, but consider this and think about it intelligently. When you're out there, don't put yourself at risk. I mean, you can say don't do this all day long, but again, like we said before, they're probably going to do it anyway. But at least they have that inspiration to want to take it to the next level or see it in a different perspective.
Maybe like thinking of it like gun safety, teaching them how to use the tool properly before they go and try to shoot at random targets.
You know, one of the things that I notice here, it seems like all the photographs, and I'm just going to go by what I'm looking at tonight, they're all on commercial buildings, they're all out in the public. And as somebody who also looks at art, where a lot of the world's art goes to somebody's home and then nobody else ever sees it, this all looks like commercial property to me. Have any of you guys ever actually done residential homes where you're doing the backs of homes, fronts of homes, sides of homes? Because none of this looks like somebody's house. It all looks commercial.
I've taken photos of most of these people doing yards and inside houses and stuff. But when they asked me to show street art, I showed everything that was outside of a yard, where it's all public view.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're all living, working artists, so yeah, we've done lots of commissions, private and public.
We're talking about when you said this young man over here who wants to try to get this into the schools. I used to be a teacher. Get a hold of the Arizona curriculum, find specific points that you can say that what you're teaching will support in the curriculum and present that. Don't try to figure out some way on your own, it's already there. If you do that, you've got an ironclad case. They can't shoot you down, unless they just don't want to have any art, which a lot of schools don't. But get a hold of the curriculum. That will help you. Anyway, my question is, first of all, I want to thank all of you because you make my city beautiful, and I appreciate it. And but I want to say that right now there is a big political runoff going on in city council, and I'm getting all the nasty negative ads from the different candidates about what they're going to do for our city. And one of the things they all have grabbed onto is we're going to clean up graffiti. We're going to get rid of all this, and they even have pictures of themselves painting over stuff. How are we going to keep them from getting rid of the beauty? I'm very concerned by this because it's a very hot issue right now. And the election is what, the 5th, I think it is, coming up in a few days. I'm hoping it's all smoke and mirrors and they're just all yelling and screaming, hoping to be the last one heard. But it does concern me that they grabbed onto this one issue, that graffiti is a problem in Phoenix and it needs to be stopped. I'm worried that they're going to just go and start doing like that guy in New Orleans, painting everything gray.
I mean, graffiti's been a serious problem since the '90s. Started with Rick Romney when he actually. That's why all the paint is in a case now. You can't buy paint. If you're in Phoenix, it's always going to be locked up. It's through that, but that didn't do anything. It's a losing battle, and there's no need to worry.